Previously in the story, we saw Lin Shuhuan laughing uncontrollably after realizing that Li Shulai was a cultivation genius. Li Shulai, confused, thought, the powerful really are all a little crazy. Up next, both Li Shulai and Lin Shuhuan were sitting together when she told him, "As your master, I should have some privileges." Li Shulai smiled and replied, "Of course. What can I do for you, master?" With a smile, Lin Shuhuan looked at him and said, "I want to eat something delicious." Li Shulai's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Okay, master. Whatever you want to eat, even if I don't know how to make it, I'll learn immediately." Grateful for her guidance, he thought, "Thanks to master, I was able to reach the foundation building stage so quickly." Noticing his enthusiastic expression, Lin Shuhuan felt her face flush and quickly turned away. "The yang qi may have stopped leaking, but I still feel strange around him. It must be an after effect." She stood up abruptly and urged him, "What are you waiting for? Go on, quickly, I'm hungry." As she walked away, she thought, "I almost caused a disaster just now, but he's still so innocent. If I told him everything, it'd be even more embarrassing." Li Shulai nodded. "I'll get started right away." A moment later, in the kitchen, he busied himself, preparing food for his master. Reflecting on his past life, he thought, "Back then, I worked like a slave for others, only to be betrayed. But master, she's straightforward, sharp-tongued, yet warm-hearted. She's truly wonderful." He smiled, determined. To honor her, let's make 10 dishes. Perfection. A celebration of today's foundation building. Suddenly, he noticed Zhao Ning peeking in from outside. Embarrassed, she stepped in and offered, "I'll help you wash the vegetables." Li Shulai, confused by her blushing face, politely replied, "That's okay. I don't need any help." But Zhao Ning insisted, "I just had nothing else to do, so I was looking for something. I didn't come here on purpose to help you." She joined him anyway, washing vegetables as an awkward silence settled between them. Meanwhile, Zhao Ning's thoughts drifted. "I don't know what's gotten into me today. I was just reading and learning skills, then fell asleep, had a dream, and woke up in bed." She blushed as she remembered. It was that kind of dream. In the dream, she had been near a wall when suddenly Li Shulai appeared behind her, pulling her close, and the dream grew more intense, leaving her with an unfamiliar feeling. The dream had even cleared some spiritual blockages in her body. Could that dream bring a turning point in my cultivation? She wondered. But as she thought about it, she realized she hadn't clearly seen the face in her dream, yet she knew it was Li Shulai. Isn't this just a case of thinking about someone so much during the day that they appear in your dreams? It's hardly a prophetic dream, she thought, feeling her cheeks grow warmer. Suddenly embarrassed, she lost her grip on the cucumber she was washing, which slipped from her hands. "How could I have such a dream?" she thought, mortified. Li Shulai, noticing her odd behavior, asked, "Is something wrong?" Flustered, Zhao Ning quickly turned and left the kitchen without answering, too embarrassed to stay a moment longer. Li Shulai, puzzled by Zhao Ning's abrupt exit, called after her, "You don't want to wash the vegetables?" Zhao Ning replied with a hint of attitude, "Wash them yourself." She stood just outside the doorway, leaning against the wall. Li Shulai, still confused, thought, "This isn't a powerful destiny. It's a powerful headache." Meanwhile, Zhao Ning, hiding by the door, felt troubled. Grandma Master said he's already broken through and successfully built his foundation, while I'm still just a useless person who can't cultivate. Someday he'll leave me far behind, and I'll never be able to catch up. She gazed wistfully at the moon, realizing something she hadn't admitted before. She really liked Li Shulai. If I told him how I feel, he wouldn't be angry, would he? Li Shulai, who had become more perceptive since his breakthrough, noticed her watching him. Ah, that worried little expression. It's so genuine, he thought. Since I reached the foundation building stage, I've become more attuned to my surroundings. Naturally, this also includes noticing when Ma Xiaoning is peeking at me. He called out, "Xiaoning, are you worried about something?" Xiaoning froze, surprised. How did he know I was watching? She wondered. "You don't have to hide," he continued. "I know you're behind the wall." Embarrassed, Xiaoning stepped out and replied, "I just have something on my mind. It's none of your business." Li Shulai smiled gently. "It may have been none of my business before, but now I'm your uncle. It's only natural for an uncle to care about his nephew." He took her hand, adding, "Come, talk to Uncle Master. What's bothering you?" Zhao Ning, flustered by his touch, quickly pulled her hand free and ran outside. Li Shulai was left bewildered, wondering why she had dashed off so suddenly. Outside, Zhao Ning's heart raced as she berated herself. "What's wrong with me? It was just a handshake, but my heart's beating so fast." She scolded herself. "Zhao Ning, don't be so silly. You're making a big deal over nothing. He just touched my hand, not my lips. It must be that Dream I had, that must be it. Watching her from inside, Li Shulai chuckled to himself. She has the temper of a child, he mused. In my past life, I lived to be over 30, so Ma Xiaoning, who's barely in her 20s, really does feel like a child from a different generation. After he finished preparing all the dishes, he called everyone to eat. Lin Shuhuan, seeing the spread of food he had prepared, thanked him for his hard work and invited everyone to dig in. Li Shulai, blushing slightly, said, "The master's approval is the disciple's greatest motivation." Seeing Xiaoning still sulking, he thought, "Is this nephew still holding a grudge?" Lin Shuhuan then turned to Xiaoning and said, "I've been thinking recently. I may have a way to clear the blockage in your meridians." Xiaoning's eyes lit up with excitement, and she eagerly asked, "What's the solution? If it can help clear my blocked meridians, I'm willing to try anything." To her surprise, Lin Shuhuan pointed at Li Shulai. Confused, Xiaoning asked, "Why are you pointing at him?" Lin Shuhuan looked at Xiaoning and said, "Why don't you try practicing dual cultivation with your uncle master?" Xiaoning, utterly shocked and embarrassed, stammered, "No way! Could my dream have been prophetic?" she thought, horrified. Lin Shuhuan raised an eyebrow. "Why not? I can see you like Li Shulai very much. Isn't that a good thing?" Xiaoning jumped to her feet, exclaiming, "Like him? I don't like him at all." Li Shulai, listening quietly, thought to himself, "What does she like? She's just annoyed that I'm no longer pursuing her." Lin Shuhuan pressed her again. "Are you sure about that?" Xiaoning, flustered, replied, "Yes, absolutely sure. There's no way I could like him." But her mind wandered. If I practiced dual cultivation with Li Shulai, it would give me a path forward in cultivation. Okay, maybe it's not completely unacceptable. Lin Shuhuan, hearing this, said, "Of course, dual cultivation must be something you choose willingly. As your master, I'm just concerned." She was about to continue when Xiaoning interrupted, saying, "Let's not talk about it while eating, Grandma. Let's just focus on the meal." Li Shulai, feeling awkward, chimed in, "Master, right now I'm focused on building my career. We can look for other solutions to help my niece with her cultivation problem." Lin Shuhuan paused thoughtfully, nodding. "In this life, I still possess the rare Yuan Yang body, a valuable physique for cultivation," Li Shulai thought. "But becoming an immortal doesn't have to mean finding a partner." Lin Shuhuan agreed, saying, "Yes, let's look for another way." Xiaoning, taken aback, couldn't believe Li Shulai had actually refused. "It's one thing for me not to want dual cultivation," she thought, "but being rejected is something else entirely." Her eyes filled with tears as she wondered, he's even helping smooth things over. But isn't he the one who'd benefit? Aren't men usually eager to take advantage of such things? Actually refused. How could he? Her frustration grew. Not only is he missing this opportunity to be close to me, but he seems to get along so well with other girls. Meanwhile, Li Shulai ate his food calmly, thinking, "No desires, no distractions. Maybe I'll take a soak in the hot springs tonight. It's a rare chance to practice undisturbed at Qingyun Temple." Lin Shuhuan noticed Xiaoning's sad expression and reassured her, "Don't worry, I'll find a way to address the cultivation issue. Let's enjoy the meal first." She couldn't help but think, my disciple is so selfless. A person free from desires is indeed suited for the path of cultivation. Xiaoning, still disappointed, murmured, Okay, Grandma." After they finished eating, Lin Shuhuan took Li Shulai to the library. Just as they were leaving, Xiaoning stopped them, saying, "I'm not feeling well, so I'll stay behind. You two go ahead." In reality, she was still upset, and couldn't bear to see Li Shulai again that night. Lin Shuhuan looked at Xiaoning and said, "All right, have a good rest." Later, at the Qingyun Temple Library Pavilion, Lin Shuhuan explained to Li Shulai, "On the first floor, we have classic texts for self-reflection and personal growth, not directly related to cultivation. The second floor houses exercises, and the third floor contains resources on elixirs. You should spend time on the first and third floors when you can, but what you need most right now is cultivation skills." She selected a few books and handed them to him. "These are foundational books for beginners. Make sure to read them all before next week." Li Shulai looked at the stack, surprised and a bit nervous, thinking, "Isn't this a bit much to finish in a week?" Noticing his expression, Lin Shuhuan said, "If you're starting late, you'll need to make up for it with hard work." Li Shulai regained his confidence, replying, "All right, I promise." Inwardly he thought, "What's so difficult about this? Nothing could be harder than struggling through middle age in my previous life. It's just a few books. I'll get through them." After a moment, Lin Shuhuan, curious, asked, "Why did you refuse the idea of dual cultivation with Xiaoning earlier? It's hard to believe career ambitions are your only reason. Do you dislike her?" Li Shulai hesitated, recalling memories of his past. "In my previous life, I couldn't exactly say how Ma Xiaoning wasn't fond of me." Finally, he replied, Master, can't people just keep their hearts closed off? He explained, I feel that dating is a distraction. There are so many fascinating things to pursue beyond romance. Right now, I just want to cultivate and build my career. I have no interest in dating. Lin Shuhuan observed him thoughtfully. His breathing was steady, his mind calm, and his spiritual energy remained undisturbed. He seems sincere, she thought. At his age, not wanting romance, could he be... She quickly dismissed the thought, but finally said, Since you're so focused, I'll lend you a helping hand. Li Shulai's heart skipped a beat. How is she going to help? Could it be one of those classic cultivation routines? Like, to master this skill, you must be castrated? He wondered in panic. In the Gongfa room on the second floor, Lin Shuhuan searched through the shelves, muttering, Money is essential for building a career, but to a teacher it's just an external tool. At last, she found a dusty basket and handed it to Li Shulai, who was surprised to see it was full of bank cards. Before he could ask, Lin Shuhuan said, These cards were gifts from various business leaders over the years. I never check the balances. Use them whenever you need to. The password is 6/8. Li Shulai looked at the basket in astonishment, grateful and awed by her support. Li Shulai's eyes widened as he looked at the basket full of bank cards. Is this for real? He thought, stunned. A whole basket of bank cards? He was even more shocked to realize that his master was actually wealthy. So, being a top cultivator can make you rich too. All right, I'm all in. Tears welled up in his eyes as he said, Master, you're truly a good person. He picked one card from the basket and said, with a bright smile, But I'll just take one card, and when I earn enough, I'll return the money to you. Lin Shuhuan waved her hand dismissively. It's all right. Take the entire basket. It just takes up too much space here. I could fit 10 more books in its place. Li Shulai was speechless. This basket of bank cards is just an object that's taking up space? For the first time in 2 lifetimes, he felt what it was like to be kept by a rich woman. It wasn't a bad feeling at all. But then Lin Shuhuan added, You can only use the cards after you finish reading the classics. That's what will please your teacher. Li Shulai grinned. No problem. The next day, without wasting any time, Li Shulai began practicing his new skills. Lin Shuhuan instructed him, Today I'm teaching you the breathing methods. They may seem simple, but they are essential to your future practice. You must get accustomed to them. Panting heavily, Li Shulai replied, Yes, master. Lin Shuhuan nodded approvingly. That's all for today. Now go back to school. Xiaoning is waiting for you. Li Shulai thanked her sincerely. I'll see you next week, master. On the way back to college, in the private car, Li Shulai noticed Xiaoning still seemed upset, her face reflecting a quiet but persistent anger. The little girl looks strange, he thought. Xiaoning, he asked, What's wrong with you? Xiaoning, frustrated, thought, What's wrong? What's wrong? It's all because of you. She hadn't been able to sleep, thinking about Li Shulai all night. She finally blurted out, You really don't want to have anything to do with me anymore? Li Shulai, calm as ever, asked, Do you want to have something to do with me? Xiaoning turned around, her cheeks flushed. Like me before? Please answer seriously. Li Shulai replied, Yes, but inwardly thought, That was over 10 years ago in my last life. Blushing, Xiaoning asked nervously, What about now? Without hesitation, Li Shulai replied, I don't like you anymore. Why would I want to fall in love? Inwardly, he reflected, I may be in my early 20s physically, but I've lived 2 lives, totaling almost 40 years. It'd be ridiculous to only think about romance. Isn't it better to cultivate and seek immortality? To gain wealth and power? Why waste time on love when there's so much more to achieve? Xiaoning, hurt by his words, began to cry. You're such a hypocrite. Aren't you very close to Liao Kexin? The way you look at her is so intense. Li Shulai shot back. What nonsense! Liao Kexin is my idol. To me, she's a god on a pedestal, someone to admire but never touch. Please don't insult the pure friendship between us. She's going to be a great writer, contributing to China's cultural legacy. She's someone I want to protect. Xiaoning, tears streaming down her face, turned away. So, she's the goddess on the altar. But what about me? She asked bitterly. When people are young, they have all kinds of thoughts, and they're bound to notice beautiful people more. Her words hung in the air, a mixture of jealousy, confusion, and heartbreak.